I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. The goodness is running after, it's running after me. The goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running feel your presence in this place. I want to know a full and righteous love. I want to see, I want to be undone. Holy Spirit, come, rushing like a flood. Heaven opens up.
Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never failed me yet. I know the night won't last, your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough, keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never fail. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never fail. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you've never
Thank you so much for worshiping with us today. If you're in person, please greet those around you. If you're online, please drop a comment below, and we'll be back with a message shortly.
It's weird being on stage and look down at all of you appropriately. No, we're glad you're here. There's a ton of energy in here, and I don't know, maybe it's the acoustics, maybe it's the stained glass. I don't know. I just felt like worship this morning sounded insane. Like, it was so amazing. The vocalists up here, the musicians, everybody out here, like, the energy was high. So if you are thinking about coming to visit, if you're online and haven't been here in person, now is the time. Come out and hang out with us, and it's a great time of worship. We have a few things coming up. I gotta look really far up here. So we have our communion service, our Halloween communion service on October 30th. You can dress up if you like, or you can just show up as yourself. It's okay. I'm going to come as Buzz Lightyear. And then on the 12th, if you're willing, my parents, Jim and Lori, are moving out of their home, and they could use some help moving. So if you're around that weekend, they would love some help to get out and to move into storage. And then if you'd like to start a small group or a life group, you can reach out to any one of us here in the church leadership. We can help you get set up with that. And we're going to be doing some cool things as we get closer to the winter. You know, it's crazy. It's October 23rd, thinking about the holidays. So we're going to be setting up and announcing all of our holiday dates here soon, so you know what to plan for. And then if you have not texted EastPoint to 94000, you should do so. We will be here for the foreseeable future, but we're going to have different events and things and whatnot. And so you want to make sure you're plugged in and aware of what's going on. And then I guess that's about it. So last but not least, we'd just like to take the offering. You can I think mail the offering to the church still. You can give online at eastpoint.org/give. And I don't know if there's a basket by the food table. There's a basket on the food table out in the, I guess, vestibule. Is that what you would call that? Yeah. Called a vestibule. But why don't we just take a quick moment and ask God to bless the rest of the service and bless the message that he's about to bring. God, we are just so grateful for who you are. We're grateful for this place. We're grateful for the people, God, and just the talent you have blessed us with, the worship this morning, God. We're just so grateful. And to just step into your presence today, God, help us to open our minds and our hearts as JD brings the message. Just be with him, speak through him, Lord. And we ask right now that you would bless the offering today. Just bless the financial aspect of our church. Help us to grow and to multiply. And not because the money is great, God, but because bringing people closer to you is great, God. And help us to impact our community and impact this area, God, for you. And again, we're just grateful to be here this morning. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Josh. I do have it turned on this week, so... Yep, I do. Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. Since we're experimenting here with a new mic, we've got to make sure it's all going to work. You know, you guys are the guinea pigs. Hey, you know, I was just thinking next week I probably should come wearing my costume because it's like almost Halloween there, right? So I'm getting a definite no there from somebody. I won't say who. But I do have a character that I use for Halloween that is not at all popular with my family. So doesn't that get you curious? Hey, we're going to continue on in this series we're looking at, but I was going to say, I guess it's square on this screen. I'm used to the wide screen, and it's short and square. I have to change my templates to make it so it fits better. But I thought I would catch up. I want us to do a little recap. And just for fun, I put a thing in, because previously what we had been talking about is that we'd be too busy. We're on the previously stuff. There it is. See the skip recap? Don't tell them, I'm just messing with the people that are watching online because I want to see how many of them are getting their mouse clicking over that thing to see when it's going to, see if they can't hurry this sermon right along, you know. But so we'll just enjoy them having that fun for right now while we go on, because you can't skip the recap. So, all right. But we're too busy for God. So, I mean, week one, we looked at the fact that we're kind of in trouble. We're going at such a breakneck speed that we just have so much going on. Our lives are so full that we just don't have room for God. And so what we're looking at is if we want to be able to get closer with God, then we've got to find how we're going to do that. You're just going to have to walk around. There's just no ways around it, man. So, there we go. All righty. And we looked at that, about the things we were doing, and the idea that we've just got to take notice of that. We looked at, we can cast all of our burdens on God, right? Why? Because he cares for us. Casting our burdens on him doesn't mean that, I guess I have to go and confess and take my lumps, because that's not what he's about. That's what he's often taught as. We get that image of him, but that's not what he is. He cares for us, and he says his burden is easy, his yoke is light. He says, I don't have a hard thing for you. I want good for you. And so we said, he says, be still and know that I'm God. And that's what we did in that first week. And then what we looked at last week, we looked at the whole idea of loving detachment. And the loving detachment is that we get so tangled with the things of this world that, like the sower with the seed, that some of the stuff falls on ground and the weeds choke you. The worries of life come up and choke us. And they take away what God wants to do in our lives. And so we're not able to have that abundant, full life that God wants for us. And so we have to lovingly detach. And the hard part of this doesn't mean check out. This is not a Disney, let it go, You know, the cold never bothered me anyway. Just let it all go. I'll get in my fortress. I'll wall off the world. That's not what this is. This is, I love you, but I can't do what you need for me, perhaps. You know, it's like sometimes we have to say, there's only so much I can do because I'm empty now and I have to get filled up. So the choices that you're making, I'm going to detach from. The things that are out of my control, I'm just going to detach from. And I'm not saying I don't care, but I'm saying I have to step back and protect my soul, because that stuff, these are the weeds that come up and choke our souls and keep us from being able to reach to God and grow into who He wants us to be. So that's what the loving detachment about. It's not about straight arming everybody. It's about setting appropriate boundaries. I mean, you can see the need that we have for detachment. The book Boundaries, written by Cloud and Townsend. You've probably all heard of the books. Millions of copies have been sold. In fact, they knew they hit on a good thing because they wrote Boundaries, and everybody just bought the books up and like, yeah, we need this. And so then they made, okay, boundaries with kids, boundaries with parents, boundaries with partners, boundaries, whatever, boundaries with your garage, boundaries with your shed, it's like whatever it may be. If they can expand on the boundaries, and they've done well with that. If you want to, that's one of the plans in life. But we just get so weighed down that we need to detach so we don't get weighed down with the burdens of life and not go on. What button do I hit there? There it goes. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. And one of the first things we're going to talk about, I know I'm probably walking right off the camera. That was pretty silent, wasn't it? All right. I want to talk about beauty. And it's not, when you think about, okay, let me go through the spiritual disciplines. Beauty isn't one of those things that shows up. Is that me doing that? Is that better? All right. Beauty is not one of those things you normally see on your list of, I'm supposed to pray, I'm supposed to solitude and silence. I don't remember beauty being in that list, JD. See, beauty matters. Beauty's important. God spent a lot of time spelling out exactly how the temple should be built. He gave all the dimensions and cover this with gold and hammer this out and use rich cloth, and have it embroidered with this. And I'm going to supply people who are gifted in these areas so we can make it as beautiful as possible. The tabernacle, the temple, so many different things. God talks about beauty a lot. In fact, when he refers to Jesus, he talks about beauty. See, beauty is important to God. Now, I'm not talking about, because I think that a thing has happened certainly in our society, I think maybe in many other societies as well, where beauty, we get into thinking, when you hear the word beauty, the first thing you start thinking of is supermodels or something. And then there's all this pressure on women about there's supposed to be a certain way. It's like, oh, this is about how we're supposed to look. And so God likes the beautiful people more? And to one way, I could say, well, yes, but he doesn't think of beauty in the way that you and I think of beauty. In fact, Timothy told his people in 1 Timothy, he basically said, don't make yourself beautiful by how elaborately you embroider your hair and the things that you do and the clothes that you wear and the finery, he said, but on the inside, having a loving, and he calls it a quiet spirit. And I think it's what he's talking about there with the quiet spirit doesn't mean that, hey, if you're like a really quiet person. But I think he's also looking at that contemplativeness that says, I can approach God. He says, so a woman that is that way is beautiful. And if you're looking for a beautiful woman, find one who's got the beautiful spirit, because the other will fade. And today we're not going to be talking about or looking at human beauty, because there's so many other types of beauty and I just want to sort of steer clear of that potential landmine. Okay? But beauty, it comforts and it heals. Notice that if someone's, two places where you're going to see a lot of flowers sent, hospitals and funerals. Why? Because it comforts and it heals. There's actually been a fair amount of study done about people who they're in their convalescence, and people naturally in convalescence tend to want to be in like a garden area, or they want to be near a window where they can look out and see the beauty that's outside. And they find that people that are in such environments heal faster, that when they're surrounded by beauty, because it does something to us. The beauty does as we take it in. It heals and it comforts. It reminds us that there's goodness in the world. That there is, it's like things are going on. Judy and I, when we go on vacation, as many of you know, we do the national parks quite a bit. And part of that is because we've discovered that beauty is restorative to us. It heals us. And so we go on hikes and we look at things. And one of the things that I find myself often stopping and taking pictures. Now, I will admit, I am not an object of beauty when we go on these hikes because I carry multiple cameras and I have the gear so I can attach them to my person. So, I look like the geekiest tourist and I'm okay with that, I'm not on these hikes to pick up women. Unless Judy falls, then there's a woman I pick up. But I'm not. That's not what I'm there for. And when I was young, I wasn't the young handsome guy that the women were like, oh. So I've never worried about that. And so I don't mind the fact that I'm wearing all this gear and carrying it all with me. But we're in these places, and we've been doing like a lot of stuff out west recently. We're in the mountains, and you're up high, and the vegetation stops, and it's all rocky. And then there will be this beautiful little flower growing up out of a crack in the rocks. I don't know how many pictures I have like that, because when I see it, I always want to stop and take a picture of it. And I use the macro lens, of course, but it's like, I love that. Because it says to me, beauty endures. We can put all the different things, and it's to me it says something about what God has done with his world. See, he could have made the world any way he wanted. He could have made it just this huge, flat level thing with no contours. He could have made it without all the different plants and different things that we have. He could have made it without mountains. It'd be dull. But he could have made it just utilitarian, but he didn't. He made it full of lush things. In fact, we need oxygen to go from day to day. And the way that he decided to provide oxygen was not by some huge subterranean plant that he made that pumped air into the world, but he says, I'm going to put all these trees, all this lush greenery all around you, and it will fill the air with all the oxygen you can possibly need, and it will be restored constantly, every day. Beauty endures. In fact, it's interesting if you read some of the stuff, because you'll see a lot of these things about, we got to protect the trees, and I think we do have a responsibility to care for our planet. But I also think that we overestimate our ability to destroy what God has established. When I was in Peru with my brother-in-law, he was a pilot down there, and he was going to take us back to see this missionary. And as he put it, we're going to fly about 100 miles in a straight line over broccoli, because that's what it looks like because of the canopy of the forest in the Amazon jungle. And he says, he goes, when I watch the things from the United States about how we're losing all of our trees, he said, and that they complain about the slash cutting. I was like, find a spot where something has been cleared, because there's nothing here that's cleared. It's just so much. And I just think of the abundance and the bounty of God with that beauty and how it endures and it lasts. Augustine refers to it as a plank amidst the waves of life. Where he said, where you're cast upon a most forgiving shore. That life is rough. Life is hard. Pain is a part of life. If that's a surprise for you, I'm sorry for the spoiler. But pain is a part of life. But beauty is one of those things that in the midst of all of that is there to help restore us. And there are things. Beauty reassures. And this to me is important because of its bounty, because of its endurance. It reassures us that God is in control. It reassures us about the type of God that we serve, that he cares about the flowers. And I think he often has said, remember he said, Solomon is, in all his glory, is not clothed like one of the flowers of the field, where God said, I know this. I see that those are beautiful. I see the wildflowers. I see the cultivated flowers. I see those gardens that you guys are keeping and the gardens that you're letting run go. And he goes, I see the beauty because that's the kind of God I am. And it endures. And for me, it's a reassurance that God is there. But as we get busy, it gets harder and harder, doesn't it? You know, beauty it's everywhere. See, the beauty is, it's not the same to all of us, but it's everywhere. It used to be my usual sermon prep method, because what I do now is kind of sad. I've got this set up with 3 different computer monitors that I can all control from my laptop that I've got. So I can keep the scripture up there, a PowerPoint, an outline thing going on, and jumping back and forth and all over. So I'm like immersed into this electronic world. But it used to be that when I was preparing for a sermon, I usually started with, I'd be reading with my Bible, and then I would go stand in the woods for several hours and just stand there and ask God to reveal to me what he needs, what he wants me to give from this passage. And that used to be one of my favorite things. I think I developed that because for many years I was a bow hunter. I wasn't a bow killer. I was a bow hunter, which meant I spent many, many hours standing in a tree stand in the woods, freezing to death, and seeing no wildlife. That's what it is to hunt sometimes. And I would stand there with my bow. And so after like 6 to 8 hours, things quiet down for you a little bit. And that used to be part of my preparation because it would just be, and I found it beautiful. I love watching squirrels. I know some people are like, they're rodents. Yeah. Rodents aren't bad tasting. But that's a whole nother story. We don't all find the same things beautiful. And in fact, since like you've heard beauty's in the eye of the beholder, last week when I was thinking about this, as I was thinking about this week's message, and we were thinking about it, and on the weekend, Judy gets these lovely calendars that give us different things. And so what came up last week on the calendar was this picture. And she saw it, and she went, oh, that's awful. Those birds are fighting. Why did they show us that picture? And I saw the picture, and I went, oh, my gosh, that's beautiful. Because I saw 2 things. One, I think the birds are very attractive. I said, that photographer has, like, next-level skills to catch them like that and to stop the action. Because this is not a painting. This is a photograph. It doesn't translate very well from on the screen like this. This is a photograph that a photographer took. And it's actually blue sky behind it, not just a bare background. And I saw that. And for me, it was like, that is so cool. Isn't that beautiful that somebody has the skill to do something like that? And Judy looked at it and said, yuck. But fortunately, Monday comes. So we got another picture. And Judy goes, that's a nice picture. And you got and the only thing I looked at that said, that is cool. That made me think like, I want to go hike the Narrows again in thing. But it's but I just recently learned how to do that with photography on the water, where it gives that flowing look to it. And it's, messing with the f-stops and all that good stuff. I just recently learned how to do that, so I was all excited going, oh, that one's cool too. But it's very much in the eye. So this next one is just a picture of how the difference, like Judy and I, when an animal comes up as the ding's calendar, there's all sorts of beauty, but, it's like, if it's an animal, my eyes are all big and hers are like, what? So it's, and for a lot of, like certainly kids, they're like, oh, now that's the cool picture. Forget that other stuff. Let me see those frogs. That was also on the calendar. It just happened to be on the back side of the other one, so I thought I should throw that in there. So beauty it's everywhere. It's everywhere around us. We can find it. It's in the eye of the beholder. It is, I think, an important thing. However, although beauty is around us everywhere, all the time, have you noticed that you're not getting that lush intake? There's a reason why Judy and I go halfway across the country to a national park, because right outside my door, as I'm leaving the house, there's a great big mum that sits there, and it's got like 1,000 blooms on it. I even thought about bringing it in today, but I noticed that it started to get a little dried around the top. I thought, well, that's not as beautiful as it was. And on the other side is this nice fall collection with a fern, and it's there. But I go past it every day, and so at some point, I stop noticing it. I don't see it because I got things to do, places to go, people to see. Who's got time for looking at that stuff? And so we have two big ones like that, and it's too much for the porch. But I was at Costco, and I texted Judy, and I said, well, they've got like a mum, and they've got a fall mix. What do you want? And I didn't hear anything. And I looked at it and said, I'm buying the mum. So I bought the mum and took out the card, and I get a text. Fall mix. I said, sounds good. I went back into the store and bought the fall mix. Because, well, never mind why. But it's all around. But we don't. Why don't we always notice it? Why don't we see? Because we're distracted. We're distracted. We in life are distracted. Now I don't know if any of you happen to have one of these. The personal distraction device in it, the PDAs or PDA, personal distraction things. The computer that you carry with you everywhere you go. People walk out of the house, they don't have the keys to their car because they're getting ready to go drive, but they got their phone, right? Many of you go and get in the shower and you lay that phone on the sink right next to the shower in case something goes on. You need to reach out to the shower. See, I see some of those smiles. I see people like, no, I don't want to do that. Other people are like, you got to keep it in reach, At nighttime, it's laying right there next to your bed. 75% of people have it within arm's reach while they sleep. I think it's like 77%, but this is a designed distraction device. Because it used to be, like for those of you that are old from here, we used to have phones that hung on the wall and that had a cord go to them. And privacy meant you have a long cord and you go around to the basement door and try to shut the door while you're talking. And that's, that was privacy. And all it did is it would ring sometimes, and you'd answer the phone, and if somebody was on the phone, nobody else is going to do it, and it's not going to ring again. Now, I grew up with the party line, so you pick the phone up, and it might be for your neighbor, or it's at their house, or, it's like somebody's already talking on the phone, so you put it back down. It's like, because it was really a very minor part of our lives. But it's not anymore, is it? See, what happens when you hear that little noise? Oh, I got a text. And how many of you are just able to go, forget that, I'll deal with that later. But it starts to burn a hole in your pocket. Who texted me? What did they want? What was that about? And most people, can't resist it. We have been trained, we've become addicted to the idea that there's going to be something comes through and we're going to answer. Boom, we're going to do it. And we're trained by a variety of ways. Our attention is under constant assault. Because even if you're doing things like we were talking this morning about some different applications that you can use online for doing like there's meditations and stuff like this. But I know what's going on because you're going to pull up that main window of the meditation. And Google has got its eyeball on you and says, oh, you're on. I know what you like to look at. Here's an ad for that. Here's a thing across the top, along the bottom. You know, remember that plane you were looking at, JD? Looky here. It's on sale. You know? Whatever it is that whatever your shopping habits, Google knows you better than you know you when it comes to things like your shopping habits. And then by design, distractions are constantly popping up, calling our attention. And our brain, even if we say, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to that stuff, but we shift our eyes over real quick to see what that is because it's moving, it's flashing, it's doing something. It's, again, one of those things for hunting. What do you look? What's the number one thing that gives away the fact that there might be, prey nearby? Movement. That's what catches our eye is movement, which is why things around the edges always are moving or flashing or doing it because it catches your eye and you go to that. And it's kind of like if you want to think about it as an evolutionary survival thing, is that like prey creatures, whenever something unexpected takes place, immediately orient to it. Watch deer, watch rabbits, watch, anything. Watch your pets. Something unusual happens, they perk right up, their ears turn towards it. It immediately calls their attention. And that's what we've gotten into, is we have trained ourselves. So in our brains, when something novel or something different happens, it immediately grabs our attention. Even if you say, yeah, JD, but I'm really good at ignoring that stuff. Because I see that it happens, but then I get right back to what I was doing. But our brain takes time to focus, just even if it's a second, to focus on what that was, to decide what it is, and say, I don't need to deal with that, and come back to what we're doing. And then when we come back, we have to reorient to what we're coming back to. And you're like, seriously, JD, you're going to gripe at me for a second and a half of stuff of my distraction? The point is what takes place neurologically when you're doing that. Because it consistently breaks the focus and doesn't allow you to go deep with what you're focusing on. Because distraction will consistently break you away from the deeper stuff. So it's, pop-up ads, side things, text, phone calls, whatever it may be. We have distractions. If you've got children, small children that still live at home, you're like, well, what isn't a distraction? It's like your whole life is just one major distraction, and that's true. But we need to be able to have time to go deeper and to focus, because that's how we do it. Relationships take time. They just do. I've mentioned before, relationships, they're not efficient. Psalm 119. Oh, how I love your law. I meditate on it all day long. Your commands are always with me and make me wiser than my enemies. I have more insight than all my teachers, for I meditate on your statutes. Now, just that statement, I meditate all day long. That's just not something that we are real good at, is it? In fact, I don't know how many of you try to meditate. In fact, it's ironically, I have found, particularly in the Protestant church, we're almost afraid of meditation. Oh, isn't that Eastern stuff that, we're doing things we shouldn't do? God has a lot to say about meditation. Jesus practiced meditation regularly. He said he got up early in the morning and went to a desolate place so he could be alone with God, his Father. He would meditate on that. Meditation is an important part, and it takes time to meditate. We can't find God while we're distracted. It's just hard to do. Because we got so much going on. Because God is not flashing in the sidebar. He's not jumping up and down going, here I am, here I am. You know, Elijah discovered that when he had this great victory over Baal and runs away. And he says, God wasn't in the thunder. He wasn't in the fire. He's not in the earthquake. He's not in all these flashy things that are calling my attention. It wasn't until everything stopped that I could hear the voice of God. Because God's not pushing. And I think probably my favorite example of this is Mary and Martha. Because you remember Mary and Martha, friends of Jesus. And Jesus comes, and they're all excited. And Martha is really busy because she's preparing food and all the stuff. And she says, it says, Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. That's Luke 10:40. She was distracted by all the preparations. And so she comes to Jesus and she complains. Jesus, don't you see that Mary's just sitting there and I'm doing all the work? You know, do something about it. And I just love Jesus' response. Excuse me. He goes, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. See, Martha was doing what I think most of us do. Martha was taking care of what needed to be taken care of. She's getting her done. You know, she had her to-do list, and she's ripping through it, and she's getting it done. And Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus, soaking him in, soaking in the beauty that is God. And he says, I like that Jesus doesn't just say, she's chosen the better, but he says, there's only one thing that's important. And that's what Mary has chosen. She's chosen to be with me. And I won't always be here in this way. And you will need to fix meals and clean house and do all these other things. But when there is opportunity, you don't want to miss that opportunity. You want to grab hold of it. You want to be with me. Spend your time. Lovingly detached from all those chores which are calling your name. Now, I will say that if I did want to make a gender statement about this, which of course I don't want to make gender statements about anything, but women, you know, understanding that you don't have to do it all. That, because I know that a lot of times women will hear a message about things and right away, I got to do more, I got to do more. You know, because the world is going to fall apart if us women don't, you know, get together and make it all happen. And you might be right. But you're the ones who also need to hear, it's okay. It's okay to stop. In fact, it's more than okay. It's the thing, is to stop and be with God. Judy was talking in the prayer time this morning because she's going to be taking a retreat. And she does this probably once a year, occasionally, where she goes away. And I know when she goes away, that means I'm doing the dishes, you know? And that I'm doing whatever's got to be done because she's gone away. But whenever she says, are you okay if I take off and I'm not here this weekend if I go away? My answer is always absolutely yes. Because there's nothing better she could give to me than a wife whose soul has been restored by quiet time alone with God. That's way better than cleaning the house or doing dishes. That's way better than so many things that she's a busy woman. I get tired just watching her. You know, that whole thing about I love work. I could sit and watch it all day. You know, it's like, but time alone. And this is in addition to the daily meditations and things of that nature. So for this week, I'm going to encourage you to try to do a couple of things. I'm going to encourage you, try to see what you can do about taking a little bit of break from electronics. You know, whatever your current thing is, you know, find a time when you can turn your phone off. Find a time when instead of, and let me tell you, I'm the world's worst at this. I'm one of those multitaskers, and they say that women are better at multitasking. I didn't say I was a good multitasker. I'm just a multitasker because I will have 3 screens going, and then when I get too tired to keep working, I put a show on one of the screens, but I keep another screen open so that I can keep doing some things as I need to, and I pull out my phone in case there's any game I need to catch up on, or in case something else happens, you know, and I've got a few other things that are sitting around that I can work on so I can keep my hands busy. Now, I get accused, I'd say who? I get accused of being ADHD, accurately. But I think that we have an ADHD society. That it's hard for us to just sit. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know how many of you guys just sit and watch a show. But I'm guessing that a whole bunch of you also has something else you're doing with your hands, on your lap, on your phone, your pad, your tablet, your whatever you've got. There's something else going on too. And some of you are like, nah, I'm watching, and then I'm sleeping halfway through. And that, you know, and that may be good. You know, that's what you need to do. But I'm going to encourage just to try to take a little break, carve out some time, and then take in beauty. Whatever that might be. And spend a little time just really enjoying it. You know, until I had the idea of bringing that mum in I thought, I'll bring that in because it's so beautiful. I'll show that to people about it as an example of beauty. It wasn't until I thought about doing that I noticed that it was starting to die. Who knows how long that's been going on? It could have been weeks, but I've been too busy. I've been too distracted to notice the death of the plant. Because that's how we live. And I think we all could stand to step back. And one of the ways to step back is by putting a limit. I know you're not going to give up your phone. I'm not giving up mine either. But I think we need to be aware of how it impacts us and what impact it's having on us, and how long has it been since you just sat and drank in beauty? Try it and see what it does for your soul. See if it doesn't heal you in some way that's necessary. Let's pray. God, I thank you that you are a person who cares even about aesthetics. That you care about what that means to us, and that you care about our experience. That we not just be functional, but that we be alive and vibrant, and that we be filled. And you've given us beauty for that, Lord, and just help us to slow down enough, to remove enough distractions that we can see what you have put before us, that we can find you in the quietness where we've buried you under all the things in life that we think are important. And help us remember that there's only one thing that's really important for us to worry about, and that is just being alone with you, having that time of sitting at your feet. Help us to sit at your feet and be close to you. In Christ's name, amen. Next week, I am not wearing a costume, but I will be here. So we'll see you next week.